Okay, so I'm continuing on. Mm. Uh, so we're human beings, spiritual beings, non-technical beings, in a physical body, which is a complement to the spiritual human being while they're in this matrix reality. Now, you know, look, I must apologise here for these videos in the sense that they're all disjointed. I lose my train of thought and get easily distracted. For that, I'm sorry, but look, under different circumstances, the videos would be mediocre but at least comprehensible, okay? Under the circumstances that I do them, and because I'm easily distracted, and of course I'm easily distracted because the Matrix heightens your senses deliberately. Now this, you would say, what is wrong with that? The Matrix is doing you a favour. You're a spiritual human being, you're in a physical body, your senses should be heightened. I think I've mentioned this before. This is actually true. But you see, a human being, like for instance, like at the moment, because it's a bit like when you're on edge, every sound irritates you. You know what I mean? You know, like if you're in a state of fear or if you're very agitated, little things bug you. Well, it's kind of like that, I think, in the sense that things are heightened, yes, but they're not heightened in a positive way, because most of what the Matrix throws at you will be negative. So, if I hear a noise, the frequency will be negative. It won't be a positive frequency. Whereas if I was in a natural environment, as I've said before, and say out in the country where there's no technology and you're just listening to nature, that nature being heightened is not a negative thing for a human being. But technology being heightened is a negative thing for a human being. And so it's like that. So if the Matrix exposes itself, then that means that things will be heightened, but they won't be positive things. It will be like being in a war zone and hearing every noise emphasised. To where, you can't concentrate then and you get, so I just apologise for that. I try to explain it. I know this is not, and it happens to everyone too. It's just that, like I say, it's a game, so each human being will be played one at a time. Bit like that song, Another One Bites the Dust. Well, it's kind of like that. This game that is played, going from the previous video, with humans, it's not a game where you have equal sides. There are no rules. The God entity has no problem playing dirty. He's like human beings were dealt a better hand. He feels justified. This being, he, she, it feels justified in any means possible, because it's like, hey, you're human beings. You're not you're in a class of your own. And you're a dangerous foe. You're something that is so different to me that I cannot stand to be in your presence. But I need your presence. in this matrix. I need your finer qualities in order to play the game in the matrix and get my ultimate game. It's like having to be married to someone that you can't stand because you want their money. You know? Yeah, like the Gaslight movie that I mentioned, where the fella has married this lady. She loves him, but he's married her because she's got the money and all the goodies. He can't stand her. He wants to get rid of her. But he doesn't want to get rid of all her goodies, all her money. And it's the same with the human being being played in this chess game. The God entity can't stand the human being. But he likes the goodies. He likes all the secret magic of the human being. It's secret to the human being. It's not secret to the God entity. He knows exactly how human beings should be. He knows what he has taken from them. He knows how he has played the game to where they are defeated, and he is the victor. It is the victor. And how this being has cleverly seduced, as this being has done since the beginning of time, I believe, if you take the fairy tale. You know, I take any fairy tale, any history, any book, I'll take anything from anywhere. If it rings, if it goes ding-a-ling to me, I bring it into my reality. You know, you say you can't do that, you can't just pick up bits and pieces of fantasies or from, whether it's real or not or whether it's a fact. You can't do that. Well, I say yes, I can, because it's my life, it's my reality, and hey, the way things are going, I've got to clasp at straws. But either way, that's not the point. Not the point at all. I've gone off track here again. Try to get too fancy. Must remember I'm a limited human being playing in a mad matrix reality by a genius level God entity at a psychopathic level. Now, like I say, it's no match for a human being, because the human is at a limited level. The human is outnumbered by huge, huge amounts. That's because the game is drawing towards its close. As another one bites the dust, as the song goes. And this shows you how this puts, for me, this is the only reason I now exalt the human being, is because I put it in this context and say, hey, if you have to bring a vast army against individual human beings, one at a time, to defeat them one at a time, that shows that the human being at its correct level is something, is something I don't know how, words cannot describe, because, it's like you can see what must be the abilities of the human by the vast army that is levelled against apparently innocent, ignorant, simpleton human beings. To me, that doesn't make sense. I've seen it in my own life. I have seen it, and you say, well, I'm in fantasy land because there is no army being levelled against little old retarded Dermot that departed the Matrix quite a while ago. Well, look, once you see the Matrix and you see the whole game and it becomes crystal clear, as it will if you start to see a bit of it, that the goal of the Matrix is to stop you seeing a bit, because a lot of human beings, if they just allow a little bit to seep in, if they just let go of that reality that's been presented to them, let go of a little bit of the logic and the so-called facts that are not facts at all. They're just a matrix fantasy, just as my videos are a fantasy, if you want to look at it that way. They're just as unreal because it's all just one big game. There is no real reality to any of it, really, except for the reality that it's a game being played with the desired end result. Human beings are in a game that they don't know they're playing. They don't know that there is a result. They don't know that there's, that someone is waiting to get a trophy. But also they don't realise that the main aim of the game is to bring the human being down to the smallest, lowest common denominator, which has been largely successful with all of us. And and it's very hard to explain. I'm doing my best, but I'm failing miserably even at explaining something, because under different circumstances I say I could explain it better. I still wouldn't be comparable to the demigods of the Matrix or anything like that, but I think I could still get some of the idea of the Matrix across. Let me try and put it this way. I'm going to use an example, okay? Remember how I said in the previous video, which should have been continued on, but whatever, that I was told years ago by other people, these are not my sayings, I get them from other people. I'm just piecing it together now. See, once the Matrix falls into place, everything sort of kind of makes a kind of sense, or all the, pieces tend to fall in your own life, and this should happen for everyone. Of course, it's happening to me only because the Matrix has pushed so far. But that's because, like I say, different reasons, different ways of dealing with each individual. Each individual, because they focus solely on each person, which also shows how important human beings are, because this is not something that's another thing that most human beings couldn't comprehend. I've never seen another human being, aside from one, I've never actually seen another human being that actually realises the Matrix and how the reality is completely centred around just one simple human being. Most human beings, even though most of them see themselves as highly functioning and highly important, even in this reality, they still see themselves as one of many, and so they can't comprehend that, that the game is played against every human being, regardless of status, regardless of position, regardless of intelligence, regardless of abilities, regardless of everything and anything. Because the Matrix God knows how things really work and understands that those things are not really important. They're the important things that we think are important. They're the things that the demigods do for us or perform for us. They're performers in reality and in every sense of the word, so that we think that that is what is a high-level human being. The demigods are not high-level human beings at all. They're low-level human beings. They merely get the best given to them, taken from real human beings, if you look at it that way. They themselves have limited abilities, but they're the chosen ones of the Matrix God, where one, how I said even in this Matrix you still find real humans that might still have one or two abilities left, or that are still working, or that are still functioning, that have not been totally suppressed. Whereas I would say that human beings are at a high level will probably be more multifaceted. Is that the word or the way? In other words, they probably have more than one ability, have many, many, many abilities that all should be functioning, because the human being is the complete